You are leaving money on the table, probably a lot of money. If you Google customer follow-up, every single article, video, and guru is going to tell you how to chase cold leads, how to talk to potential clients, how to follow up with sales conversations. Almost nobody is talking about the people who have already crossed the hardest bridge, deciding to buy from you the first time. And because nobody's talking about it, you're probably ignoring it almost completely. And it's quietly draining tens of thousands of dollars from your bottom line. Welcome to Stop Leaving Money on the Table. I'm your host, Brandyn, and you already know the harsh truth. Acquiring a new customer costs 5 to 25 times more than keeping an existing one. Yet most businesses, they heavily invest on trying to get somebody through the front door the first time, and then complete silence. The cash register rings once and crickets. Silence. Nothing. Nada. There's no strategy for what comes after the purchase. Today, we're going to dive into the overview of the customer follow-up formula. It's a complete system that I created after working with hundreds of businesses and studying hundreds more. I'm going to show you the fastest way to increase revenue, explain why you're currently ignoring it, and how to fix it without spending a penny on marketing. There are lots of reasons why most businesses completely ignore the follow-up for existing customers. We're going to focus on the two biggest factors. First, I think that it takes way too much time. And you're probably not wrong on that. To do it really, really well does take time. But I'm going to give you some simple steps that you can apply almost instantly. Second, they just don't know what to say. Good news here, I'm going to give you some tips, tricks, and tools to use so that you don't have to make it up on your own. But the stakes are well worth it when you realize and recognize that up to half of your future revenue comes from customers that you've already served, customers that you've already paid for to come through the front door. When you realize that, half your future growth is sitting inside your current customer base, just waiting for you to guide them to their next win. Your current customers are dying to give you more money. Don't leave it to chance. If you do, you're going to lose money. It is that simple. I'll say it again. Failing to follow up with customers is costing you money. It's time to stop ignoring the fastest way to increase revenue. It's time to stop leaving money on the table. So this season, we're going to cover 10 essential post-purchase touch points. Say that 10 times fast. The math is undeniable. If you follow up with customers, your sales go up. When you don't follow up with customers, you leave money on the table. So stop leaving money on the table. And in order to do that, you need a system. That's where the customer follow-up formula comes in. It's the complete examination of what happens after a customer buys. When you master 10 of these steps, you're going to maximize lifetime value. More than that, though, you're going to start impacting customers' lives. You're going to convert them from customers to loyal customers, and then loyal customers to raving fans. But let's walk through what these 10 steps are, kind of one by one, so you get an overview of really what we're talking about. The very first one is actually something that happens before the transaction, before the purchase. I know I said this was a follow-up formula, but it's a really crucial point, and it's that very first chance that we have to start building customer loyalty. Now, I say in the program that it's a 60-second window, but it could be a fraction of a second, or it could be 6 seconds. But it's that very first chance that we have to validate the customer's decision. And that's the order or the purchase confirmation. The second, that's the receipt. This is normally your default setting on whatever POS system that you're using or whatever the standard form printer. Thank you, amount of purchase, date of purchase, type of payment, and maybe the item description. It's just a boring accounting ledger document, but you have the chance to turn that into an amazing relationship builder. A quick example, I remember several years ago when we first came out of COVID and before the Savannah Bananas were transformed into what they are now, they were still on their way to building massive and great customer experiences, and we got the chance to go. So like most online stores, we clicked on buy tickets, got the receipt, but the receipt was something different. Somebody had taken time to actually design it. It was fun to read. It built excitement. It had great graphics on it. But that wasn't the only thing. The next thing that happened completely blew me away, enough so that 6 years later, I'm still talking about it. And within 2 or 3 minutes of me getting the email confirmation, somebody from the ticket office called and said, "Hey, this is Justin from the Savannah Bananas. Really excited to have you guys come to the game. Just wanted to say, hey, if you have any questions, let me know. But it's a ton of fun. And when you get here, don't be surprised if you see parking penguins helping you get your car in place." How much fun is that? Not only was I already excited to see the bananas, but now I was already transformed into a massive fan, even before getting to the stadium the first time. I don't even live in Georgia. So when we stop treating it like just an accounting document, we have that opportunity. Now, what's number 3? That's actually giving the product or service into the customer's hands. Don't just say, here you go. There's a way to actually help them activate using that product and getting more from it. There's a way to make that delivery confirmation something so much more. Number 4, in so many businesses, try at this one, and I applaud you if you're doing anything at all to gather reviews and feedback opportunities. You're doing something right. It's just the way that we do it is usually not the best. When we stop asking our customers for favors, when we start allowing them to help other people, that's when we get more reviews. But reviews and feedback opportunities, asking our customers how their experience was. They become our greatest R&D department. We'll talk more about that later. But real quickly, if you're doing this the wrong way, that's when you get the myth that nobody wants to leave reviews or it's hard to get reviews. That's because when I approach it like this, I say, I, the business, want you, the customer, to give me a review. What's that look like? Well, if we look at just the transaction, the customer gives the business money. The business gives the customer a product or service. It's done. It's over. The customer has already completed their entire expectation in that transaction. So when we come back weeks, usually months, maybe longer, to say, will you please give me will you customer please give me, the business, a review? I'm up for the best of, or I want to, and even worse, when we say, please support local businesses and give me a review. Well, remember, the customer has already completed their entire obligation in that transaction. However, there are ways that we can adjust how we ask for it that makes customers really excited to give that. And how do we do that? By making them or giving them the opportunity to help their friends, neighbors, and loved ones by becoming a guide for them to solve the problem that they're no longer suffering from. So number 5, this is one that most companies do okay at, but they still miss many opportunities. Same thing with number 6. They kind of go hand in hand. Number 5 is cross-selling, variations, and timing. So what else does your customer need at the exact same time that they're purchasing this particular item? What else are they probably experiencing, probably going through at the exact same time? McDonald's made gazillions of dollars of saying, would you like fries with that? That's a cross-selling opportunity. Upselling, variations, and timing. So when does a customer potentially want an upgrade? Well, some of those customers may want the better version right now. Look at the Apple iPhone. Well, there's a standard iPhone and then there's the iPhone Pro. So there's a certain percentage of customers that automatically want the better option. So making sure they know it's available and they can get it. Others, it might be they've experienced some level of success with a base model or with the introductory program, and it's time to get a better version of that. When does that happen? But don't assume your customers know the answer to either of those questions. They don't. They're busy. So making sure that we have both cross-selling and upsell variations and adjusted timing based on what makes sense to them. Again, both of those could be, if it's a consumable, how long do most customers usually take to go through that particular serving size or that particular product run? That can be a subscription model might work for consumable. But again, don't make your customers try and figure it out on their own. Next one is number 7, how to install, how to use, or how to find additional features. So many products have way more than one potential use. I love using the Aura Ring as an example. I heard this in a workshop that it has so many different functions, and they used to try and explain everything that it did all at once. Well, when you realize that it's now sold as a sleep lab on your finger, but you may never realize all the other things that it can do. So if our ring then turns around and says after 30 days, oh, you may have gotten your sleep patterns under control, or may have a pretty good rest map, but did you also know that it does this? Or did you know that you can track your heart health? Or did you know that you can see your O2 or whatever the other functions are? So what else does your product do? Or is there a particular method to help them install or get the most use out of it at a time? Anytime that you can predict a customer's next question and answer that question either immediately as they ask it, or even better, just before it enters their mind, you're going to cement that your brand into your customer's mind. You're going to elevate their view of your company. You're going to increase those long-term sales. This goes right into number 8, the satisfaction check-in. What is your experience like? Are you using it? Are you still using it? There are so many different ways that we can follow up with our customers about their satisfaction. And guess what? There's a massive reason to do just this, not once or twice, but often, or regularly at least. They will become your best R&D department. The research and development that you get directly from your customers is going to far outweigh the boys back in the lab kind of deal. They're also going to be your best copywriters. The more you talk to your customers, the more feedback you ask from them, the more they're going to give you those great sound bites that you can then reproduce and use their language. So number 9, we're getting close to the end, but this one is a little bit more complex. The nurture campaign, the nurture collateral and email campaigns, staying in contact long term, keeping in touch with your customers forever and ever and ever, giving them value. Nobody is going to get upset with you for following up if you're adding value to their lives. Nobody's going to be mad at you for sending an email if it's solving an additional problem for them or giving them useful information. If we send spam, yeah, nobody wants that. So my only advice to that is don't send spam. But nurture collateral and nurture campaigns are massively impactful for the lifetime of your product. And again, if you're doing number 8 really well and you're getting the research and development, you're expanding your product's capacities or getting new versions of it, don't think that your customers know all the work that you're doing behind the scenes to improve the product. Remind them that you've got an updated product or an updated solution to their problem. And lastly is re-engagement campaigns. Number 10, knowing how to wake up a stale list or when to let those particular customers, if they're not in a phase of life anymore that your product is going to apply to them, letting them off the hook. So those are the 10 steps, again, of the follow-up formula. Over the next 10 weeks, we're going to get really granular on each one of them. We're going to dive deep into every single one. So next week, we'll start with what does it look like to start building customer loyalty before the sale even happens. I'm going to run through those for the next 10 weeks of this series. Great news, though. You don't have to create them in order. Matter of fact, most companies who are not, and again, don't feel like you're alone, almost nobody is following up with customers. So it's okay. I actually suggest that most people, since they have not been following up their customers, don't do them in order. There's a way that we can actually help re-engage those, but it's a different type than a wake up or break up type campaign. It's a reintroduction, and the way to do that is going to be building those relationships. But we're going to cover all of that in a later episode, number 12, as we wrap up season 1. We'll talk about the different variations that you can do. But don't look at that list of 10 different items and think, man, I've got a lot of work to do, or I'm overwhelmed, or I'll never be able to do that. You're probably thinking, I don't have time and I don't know what to say. Remember, those are the 2 most common friction points. That's why almost everybody on the planet is not doing it. That's why it's so easy to ignore it and focus on the front end of marketing. But remember, failing to follow up with customers costs you money. There's good news. You don't have to guess how to build this. Got free research resources for you. I put together a free checklist of all 10 of those items, plus a free audit. You can see exactly where your current follow-up system is working, where it's missing items. So go grab those resources right now. You can pause the episode and come back. Go to customerfollowupformula.com. Grab the free resources and then take a look at that audit. Find out where you're missing those sales and where you're leaving money on the table. Because remember, when you follow up with customers, your sales will go up. Now, if you think you're already doing a pretty good job, I applaud you, first of all, because most people are not doing any of them. But if you think that, hey, is there opportunity, or, we're great, I'm going to give you a couple of examples, and both will probably shock you to learn how much money is being left on the table, even by global brands, big companies. So I'll use the example of the two companies that I spend the most money with and probably arguably spend the most time with, especially if you ask my wife. But Amazon and Harley Davidson. Now, Amazon is the world's largest online retailer. By sheer volume, they're also a world leader in customer follow-up. They do a great job of cross-selling. They request product reviews. I'm sure if you've used them, you've gotten that follow-up email that says, "Give us, is this working? Give a rating." They save abandoned carts. Are you still looking for, or this is what else? But guess what? Amazon is leaving money on the table. How? Well, look at their receipt. It's entirely flat, especially depending upon some of the independent vendors that you're getting items from. It's purely transactional. It is literally the definition of that accounting document that we talked about. And their follow-up is always focused on the next dollar. It's additional sales, it's additional items. Now, don't get me wrong, they're doing fine with this. I don't think they're cash strapped, but they are leaving money on the table. They're not actually helping me overcome my pain points, and they miss relationship almost completely. They rarely ask for feedback on my experience. How is the platform operating? What else? And they almost, well, I won't say never. A couple of times a year, they'll remind you that they have other services included if you're a Prime member like me. Oh, are you using your Prime membership to its fullest? Do you use the music, or do you use the other pieces? But very, very rarely. And they almost never ask me, if I'm not using it, why not, or how I could make it better. They have probably millions of ways to make my life easier, but they fail to let me know and remind me of that. Just like your customers, I don't have time to track down all the ways Amazon can help me, or any other company, including yours. So don't make your customers work so hard. The other example is, again, the company that I spend the most amount of time with, and probably the most amount of money if you look at the total volume, and that's Harley Davidson. It is the greatest lifestyle brand on earth. And they actually track what I look at when I go to their website, but just the Harley Davidson corporate side. They suggest new motorcycles, they suggest new riding gear, but they almost never, actually, they completely fail to add value to their emails. The ones specifically from the company, they don't answer common questions. They don't seek feedback on new releases. And this is the other part, because they leave so much of it to their franchise dealerships. The mind-boggling part is the one item that every single rider has to continue to do. They never sell the most common revenue source. And the dealerships don't either. It's maintenance. We never get emails about maintenance. Their franchise dealerships make it almost even worse. And trust me, I get follow-up emails from multiple different dealers across the Southeast, and all of them are the same way. First of all, how they're delivered. It's a type of PDF newsletter style that has a bunch of information on one thing that doesn't scale. And if you're anything like me, you check your email on your phone. And I'm over 40. Most of the riders of Harley Davidson are over 40, even though they're trying to change that. Until, for now, we all need reading glasses. And even with, I can't see it on my phone. So it's a terrible user experience when I get the emails. And they add no value. So it's a double whammy. So if Amazon and Harley Davidson are leaving money on the table by missing essential items, I guarantee your business is too. So let's recap. First of all, up to half of your future revenue is comes from your existing customers, but only if you have a follow-up system to keep them engaged. Second, those 10 essential points that you need to build and capture those future sales from your existing customers. And finally, don't let perfection become the enemy of progress. And in the case of customer follow-up, that progress is actually profit. Failing to follow up with customers will cost you money. But the moment you start implementing this system, when you start following up with customers, your sales go up. So I'm going to help you fix your follow-up system altogether. Go to customerfollowupformula.com. It is super simple to remember. I did that on purpose. Customer follow-up formula right now, .com right now. Grab the free checklist. It's 10 simple items just to remind you what you're doing. Take the audit right there. If you want to move really fast and get started, there is a $47 DIY fill in the blank workbook. It's super simple to get started. You don't have to overcomplicate this. It is literally 1980s style Mad Lib fill in the blanks, and you can be up and running by the end of the day. But I have other options. There's guided one-on-one audits that complete done for you installations. Wherever you are in your business, there's resources there to help you. It's customerfollowupformula.com. But that's not what I want you to do today. Well, I want you to do that, but that's not your biggest homework. Your primary homework right now is to hit subscribe and share this with another business owner. But even more importantly, tune in next Friday. We're going to dive deep into step one, the order confirmation. I'll show you exactly why customer loyalty starts before the transaction is even complete. I'm Brandon. This has been Stop Leaving Money on the Table. Start following up with your customers, and I'll see you next week.